Meteorologist, and me, I would say it's for ages 4 to about 9, but anyone can relate to this story. It's basically about this little girl you see right here, Summer Winters, and Summer has a big dream, and that's to be a TV meteorologist. And I don't know if this is true for you, but the way I got into my career field was I met someone that was already in the field, and that kind of gave me the confidence to know that that was something that I could do. So now I've written this book and I go to different schools, encouraging students to consider TV broadcasting, consider meteorology. You can do it, it's an option. Only 29% of women are represented in our STEM workforce, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. So we want to try and change those numbers. We also want to try and get the numbers up of African American authors. Only 11% of children's books feature a character of color, a main character of color. Even less are Black authors or diverse authors that have actually written the book. So if you even have an idea for a children's book, you should write one too. So I'll just read a few pages just so you can get an idea about what the Meteorologist in Me is about. And we'll start here, which is with Summer at home. And she's with her brothers, and they're all watching the evening news. And this is my mom here recording, so this is kind of how we grew up. This is true to my life here. We would always watch the evening news together. My mom would always cook, and we'd set the table, and that was kind of our time to check in with each other about our day. And I would always tell my brothers to be quiet. Summer says, "Shh, the weather is on. This is my favorite part of the news." I think I could do that one day. Summer nervously utters, "Ha ha ha, yeah right, we love you, Summer, but you don't know enough about the weather to be a weather woman," says Storm, Sunny's older brother. The meteorologist comes on the TV. "I'm meteorologist April Showers. We're tracking a storm system that's going to bring rain and snow tonight. The mountains will see 10 to 20 inches of snow, but the city will only see rain showers." Summer says, "I know why. It's because it's too warm in the city for snow." Summer replies to her brother with a little attitude. "That was just a lucky guess," exclaims Sky, Summer's youngest brother, with a smile. And my mom has to punch in. She says, "All right, you guys, that's enough. Time to get ready for bed so you're all rested for school tomorrow. Everyone remember, you can do anything you put your mind to. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." And that's a really big point of the book too, is we've all been in a situation where someone maybe, even in a nice way, has told us, "Oh no, you can't do that," or maybe you should consider doing something else. And I was just watching a YouTube video with Michelle Obama, and her guidance counselors at her high school encouraged her to go to another school and to not apply to Harvard. So these are things that happen to everyone of all different ages. And what if Michelle Obama wouldn't have gone to Harvard? I mean, these are the things you got to think about. So Summer thinks to herself, "It wasn't a lucky guess. I like to read every night about snow, hurricanes, tornadoes, and more. Maybe I could be a meteorologist just like April Showers. I just have to believe in myself no matter what." And as the story goes on, she encounters a few more obstacles, but in the end, she ends up on TV with the Meteorologist. And this is an encouraging book that you can get for anyone, just to show them if you just follow your dreams, even if you feel discouraged, in the end, you just might achieve the dream. So that's why I wrote the book, Meteorologist in Me, and it's available on my website, thepoweroflovebooks.com. And going with STEM and environmental issues, we also have free gardening trays that we're going to give out for all the kids that are still here. But that concludes my story. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. But that was why I wanted to write The Meteorologist in Me.
Awesome.
Any questions about news or... Yes, hi.
Hi. So if we're interested in writing a children's book, how do you go about the steps to...
So that's a great question. I would just say start. It was interesting because I get invited to speak to a few schools throughout the year. I would look for the book that I really wanted to read. I didn't find it, so that's where I got my idea. For me, I based the idea on how I grew up pretty much, and I added a few things like weather tips. So I had an idea of the message I wanted to convey, and then it just came together. So I would say start with the message that you want and just write it. I wrote mine and forgot about it, and then I went to another event similar to this one and remembered that I had written the book, and that's when I got more serious. I got an illustrator, I built my own website. But the one thing I would just say is just start. That's it. The rest we'll figure out along the way. So it's too big of a project to try and, you'll get overwhelmed. But just start with the story, have a few people read it, have them tell you what you think, have them refine it, and then you'll go from there. And once the book is done, then you get a website, then just take one step at a time so you don't get too overwhelmed.
I just think it's wonderful to have met you because I see you on television. But what I want to say is that I think it's good that you're here. There are other positive role models for television. It isn't about movies all the time, but we can see you every night, and as well as the other pioneer that's here, is Pam Moore.
That's right, Pam right there. I was just going to shout her out.
You're beautiful.
And this is another example because I'm new to the area, but sometimes you meet people that help you, and sometimes you meet people that do not help you. And from the second I walked into the door at Prom 4, Pam has just welcomed me with open arms. And that's another thing. I mean, we have to help each other out and lift each other up. And so I'm just grateful to have a coworker like Pam.
What motivated you to become a meteorologist? Some kids always wonder, why did you become it? I teach kindergarten. So,
Is it on?
Use your teacher voice.
sit down. I was wondering, I'm a teacher, I teach kindergarten, and I always want to know what motivates you when I ask my children what they want to be. I would like to know what motivates you to become a meteorologist.
You know, unlike the story actually, I didn't always want to be a meteorologist. So for me, it happened later in life. I always loved just so many different things. So when I got to UCLA, I majored in international development studies. And I always loved traveling. My mom was a flight attendant for many years. She took me on my first international trip, and that was it when I was 16. So when I hit college, I just did every study abroad program I could find. So I was really more on an international track. I wanted to work in different embassies. It was just always something different. Then I met someone who became my mentor. He was a sportscaster. I met him when I was 19, sportscaster for the Lakers. And it was through meeting him that I could see myself doing something. So sometimes you have different people in your neighborhood that do different things, but maybe you've never met a doctor personally, maybe you've never met a nurse personally, or a TV personality. So in a way, you don't know it's an option until you actually meet that person and they tell you, hey, you could do this. So he told me I could do it. He's like, give it a try. So I knew I loved writing, I knew I loved storytelling, I knew I didn't want to work in an office every day. I knew that about myself. So once he told me that, I started interning at different places. I got my first job in Yuma, Arizona, and I was not doing the weather yet. Someone came up to me, well, not someone, my boss, and said, hey, well, why don't you try doing the weather? The other person didn't work out. So I started doing the weather. I would say staying open to new things. I started doing it there in my first job. Really liked it, found my niche, and then I went back to school for 3 more years, and I've just been doing it now ever since. So sometimes it's not going to be a dream that you have since you were 2, and you grow up and you do that. Your path could go like this, and then eventually you'll find your way. But what I would say, what I tell a lot of the students I read to, kindergarten, 6th grade, being open, being positive, and just believing that you can do whatever you put your mind to. So if you have something that you're interested in, maybe it'll change in a month or 2, but that's okay. I think the most important thing is for you to feel like no matter what you're interested, you can do it. Just to feel like there's no ceilings in your life, that you're capable, whatever you're going to put your energy and your positivity into and your faith into, it's going to work out for you. And I think it'll all work out. Well, it did for me, so that's all I can. Any other questions?
What is I've watched you since you came to the Bay Area. But what is the science in meteorology? Once you've got into it, you have to have some factual knowledge of
Right.
the storms or the prediction of the storms.
And so that's part of what I learned was when I went back to school for an additional 3 years, you learned so much about the weather. And I moved here from Philadelphia, which has a totally different weather pattern. So when you come here, you really have to study just the marine layer. You have to study the areas of low pressure that swing down from the Pacific Northwest, what time it's going to get here, how long it's going to stay around. We also have crazy wildfires, so you kind of learn on the job, but I also learned when I went back to school, which is another thing I always tell the kids, it's all in the studying, making sure you get great grades in high school, which opens you up to getting into great colleges. UCLA was a wonderful experience for me. So it's all in just the studying, really. If there's something I don't know, it's different from what I was doing in Philly. So if I don't understand something when I come here, I just have to learn about it before the news starts. So there's always going to be something different. That's the other great thing about TV news is it's always changing. There's always a different story to tell. So even though we were dealing with wildfires, now we have this system that brought us a bunch of rain. Now we're dealing with mudslides. So everything always changes. And it's preparation. When I go into work, I have to study the different patterns, and those always change. Even on the ship, they'll change. And every show we get to go on and update everyone with the latest information.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, your book, I did a quick read on it, and all the black authors out here, it was just pretty fascinating, very encouraging, and we need young people to start. But also in reading your book, there's always going to be naysayers and tell you what you can't do, and if you're not strong enough, it'll beat you down and you change direction. I couldn't read it one time, and then I wanted to be an actor, so I had to read. My friend told me, you need to learn Webster. I said, who's Webster? And he was like, the dictionary. But in my beliefs, like your mom, I became a flight attendant. I worked for World Airways because I had belief in myself, and that's what I always wanted to do. So with the weather, your mom would tell you, we deal with turbulence, and one of the fascinating things that I saw was coming from Europe, and I saw Aurora Borealis.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's
Northern Lights
amazing.
is amazing.
So anyway, I'm happy you're here and everybody, so thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Bay Area.
Thank you.
I just wanted to know, with studying weather and things like that, and now is it obvious to you that there is global warming, or what do you think about global warming?
I do think there is global warming. When we study everything, and I don't study it a ton because we really focus on like a 7 to 10 day forecast, and then climatologists focus on global warming. But the globe, the earth has warmed up, and one thing that we're tracking in the future is we're going to see stronger storms. And it's also going to be hotter, and it's also going to be colder. So now we're dealing with things like the polar vortex, which I'm not sure if you guys really experienced here, but I was in Philadelphia where temperatures are staying colder for longer, and people think that that's not tied to global warming, but it is. Basically, everything's out of whack, so anything can happen. Things that didn't happen before are happening more now. So you're going to find more heat waves, you're going to find stronger storms, you're going to find stronger hurricanes like Superstorm Sandy. So it's going to be really interesting to watch what's going to happen, but it's something that we're tracking. You're going to start to hear a lot of records breaking, not just like it's hot, but also it's going to stay cold for longer periods of time, or you're going to hear about more blizzards or stronger snowstorms like what happened in Boston just 2 years ago. When I moved to Philly for my very first winter, it was the second snowiest winter on record ever. So that's why I'm back in California. Yeah.
You read a teleprompter. Are you studying before you do? Are you putting that information in the teleprompter when you're reading it?
Well, the fun fact is, and I actually had a video I was going to show, is we don't have a teleprompter. We don't read off of a teleprompter. We build our own graphics, and what we see, we stand in front of a green screen, we see ourselves with the graphics. That's what we're looking at, not words. So we come up with everything that we say, and we type in everything. We come up with the weather story, how we want to tell it, what you see at home, we type in the words, everything is produced. It's our own little baby, and we get to take care of that 2 to 3 minutes on that newscast.
Okay, that's awesome.
I kind of have a question. You might not be able to answer it, but you not answering it is kind of going to answer my question. I don't really need that. Everybody can hear me. How often do you get a story and you go, I can't talk about that? You and Pam.
Pam, what do you think?
I'm not here.
No.
I deflect over to you. I'm going to deflect it on over to you.
I'm in the audience today.
You know, even for you though, when you see like that big eye,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And you go, and I don't know, your producer might say, we don't want to really talk about it. We don't put that out yet. Does that
Well,
happen?
it's really more us that doesn't want to put it out yet. They would love it. They're like, let's go with it. But if we're not confident in a forecast or it keeps changing, we get a bad reputation sometimes as meteorologists or in the media that we're overhyping everything. We're just making stuff up as we go. But it's not true. It's not true. We try to be very responsible. We're not trying to scare you. We're just trying to tell you exactly the information that we have, and that's it.
Okay.
So I'm on the other side where I try and downplay it. I'm like, oh, let me do a little bit more research before we go with this one. So, and that's what we all try to do. We all double and triple check our sources before we put any information out there, because the first thing you learn when you go into journalism is not everyone's watching all of the shows. So if you get it wrong at 5, there's certain people that have the wrong information. You'll never get them back at 6 and 11. So you have really one chance every time to get it right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have one more thing I wanted to ask about. I'm born and raised in the Bay Area in San Francisco, but it seems that the rain normally don't come in October, and so we've been getting quite a bit of rain. Last year we had an expectation that fell. In your beliefs, if you guys talk about it, do you think that we're gonna maybe get a great rainfall like El Nino was supposed to be last year? What do you think?
Well, I'm not sure. I will say that, but El Nino delivered. It didn't over-deliver. It delivered enough to bring us back average, so it helped us out. But I got here before a lot of the hype came through with the El Nino. But I will say it helped us out. It didn't give us everything that we wanted, and now we're tracking to see if it's going to turn into a La Nina year, which means it's going to be really dry. So that's the next thing that we're watching as we go into winter. But at least we did get a little early rainfall in October to help us out. So some things you can't predict the long range forecast. They are out there, but they're not quite as accurate as some of our short-term 7 to 10 day forecasts.
I feel like the earthquake, for some reason, I feel that we're going to have good rainfall. I don't want it to come, but I think it's going to come.
You think we are going to have a good rainfall? You just have that feeling?
Yeah, I know an earthquake's going to happen.
You know when the earthquake's going to happen?
Yeah.
Let me know. When is that?
When you're born in San
Let
Francisco.
me know right now.
When you're born in San Francisco, that's where the earthquake in 08. So anyway, it's just a feeling.
You said you were around there? No.
No, what did she say? No, I wasn't. Oh, I wasn't around this. I was the waiter at the Last Supper.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for having me today. And we're hoping